Hello, and welcome to Kraken One Open. If you're just joining us for the first time, this is our 6th episode, and I hope you go back and check out all the rest of them. But for now, we hope you're joining us with the intent to drink, celebrate, and talk about Seattle Kraken with me, your host, Nick Cody, and my co-host, Jameson Edwards. Jameson, how you doing tonight?
Feeling great, man. Got a bunch of stuff to talk about. Some somber stuff in there, but for the most part, very productive, uplifting stuff to look forward to.
Yeah, and it's so awesome. We're in episode 6, and it feels like we have 40 something days until the puck even drops, of less than 50 days. And right now we still have so much to talk about that it feels like, man, I don't know if we're going to be able to get enough episodes in before the puck drops. But alas, we go into our face-off, which is our first segment where we tell you what we're drinking. And if you're drinking along with us, whether it's water or if you're drinking your own beverage, we'd love to hear about it in the comments or on Twitter. So follow us at Kraken One Open or me at Just Follow 61. And we now have a Facebook page. As we said last week, you can go ahead and join that and let us know there or down in the YouTube comments, where we hope you're watching along and drinking along with us. And tonight, what are you drinking, Jameson?
Well, starting it off kind of light with 3 Floyd's Zombie Dust, which is a nice little beer right across the border there in Indiana. I'm in Chicago, if anyone needs that reminder. But the real hero of the show, got myself my first ever bottle of Kraken rum. Never had it before.
Landmark, not only in you are trying Kraken rum for the first time, but this is the first episode where you're not drinking whiskey?
This is true. Yeah.
Please tell me at least you've had a Red Bull today, though.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. We're still good, everyone. We're getting our normal Jameson.
There's a reasonable consistency in there, but I'm changing it up. It's a special occasion. We're going to be half a dozen episodes in here. It's getting up there. So what I wanted to do, first of all, so this is 47 only. Oh, 47%, not 47 proof. Oh dear. Well, here we go.
Ooh. We're going to get that first sip and hear about it from Jameson himself. Remember, this is a sponsor of the Kraken. So even if you don't like it, I don't know if you want this podcast to get sponsorships moving forward, if you should be entirely honest with your review. But good luck, bud.
I can smell the spice. I like it so far.
Yeah.
Nice. I was scared I wasn't going to like that. That's really tasty.
Yeah, I think I remember trashing it a little bit too much in our first episode. And then once I had a full bottle or two, doing our episodes 3 and 4, I believe, man, definitely have to take it easy there, buddy. Just remember that it tastes fantastic. A little bit of vanilla taste in there, as it's what I get, but
it's a quite strong vanilla, actually.
That's the thing.
From what I'm picking up,
I remember having a little too much of it, and I believe I attempted a power hour with it once. So that might be my reasoning. But for my face off, I'm going with the Michelob Ultra, which I've switched to try and reduce some of the calories before we go on our Miami trip. I got to get my beach bod back before we go. But the more important thing that I'll be drinking tonight, I will transition to our penalty box to talk about. And in our penalty box, if this is your first episode, we drink for either previous mistakes or things we thought about reviewing the past episode that were like, yeah, this wasn't our best. So I'm going to drink to that. Today, we have our very first member that isn't a co-host that is going to get in our penalty box. They get a full penalty. And I'm just going to say this delivery service will remain unnamed. I told Jameson a little bit before this recording about my problems today, but I threw my back out a little bit earlier this week and was not trying to go on a long endeavor to go to the store and get a bottle myself. So I looked at a very prominent delivery service to try and get some vodka for this week, because I wanted a bottle of Tito's and I had a 25% off coupon through this prominent delivery service, which I will not name. But I ordered a 1 liter bottle of Tito's for, I believe, $28 plus tax and tip. And Jameson, my friend, this is what I received.
You have big hands, dude.
Well, that too, but this, even regardless of hands, if we're going to go ahead and compare, I'm going to hold up what the other thing that I am responsible for in the penalty box this week. So if we're going to compare it to a bag of dicks, which I had here as we talked about logo sponsors last week, and I forgot about it. I had a bag of dicks next to me, one of my favorite things to ingest and make me 300 pounds. And I said Costco instead of a bag of dicks. So on top of the unnamed delivery service that gave me this bottle for $28 and said it was a liter of Tito's. On top of that, I'll be drinking for you on behalf and myself for the Dick's mishap. So thank you, everyone. And with that, I believe, Jameson, what do you have for the penalty box this week?
You know, it's usually on my drive back from work on days like today, where you're sitting in rush hour. It gives me a lot of time to go back and just cringe at everything that I said over the course of the previous episode. And the one that really stuck out to me, which I don't retrospectively think I understood how thoroughly I had misspoken. I said Toronto, and I quote, missed the playoffs every year since Darcy Tucker, which is just blatantly wrong. In fairness, I did go back and fact check this. What I should have said and what I intended to communicate at the time, not giving myself any like breaks here, but what I meant to say was that they hadn't been a serious contender since Darcy Tucker was around. Which, going back, the last time Darcy Tucker was in a Maple Leafs uniform and they made the playoffs was in 2004. That being said, why I was objectively wrong with what I had said in the previous episode was they've made the playoffs 4 out of the last 5 years.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't think anybody took them seriously, and they lost in the first round every season. But that being said,
we all make our mistakes, my friend.
I was wrong, and you know what? Drinks to that. Cheers, mate.
Release the Kraken!
Well, that is her penalty box. And forgot to go ahead and just open this here for that audible sound of Kraken One Open. And if you've been a Kraken One Open fan, which many of you are, and we thank you for your support, if you haven't already subscribed on YouTube and followed us on Twitter, please do so. But this is our period one where we deep dive into something Kraken specific. What we wanted to focus on this week is actually a transition from something we already talked about and introduced last week, which was yesterday, Thursday, the Washington Post. I caught an article that talked a lot about the development of hockey here in the Seattle area and just how awesome it is that they're really establishing roots early at the youth level to try and get people to get out there and try skating, which is things I even talked about last week. I wish I had as a kid, because I'm sitting here now wishing I could get back on the ice, just very nervous about it. And they're getting kids so comfortable out there right now and leaning on professionals to be able to get people to come in and trust just here's how we teach foundational hockey. And I know from being a football player that started in a brand new community football in a brand new high school, how important that was at the youth levels for developing my team from a brand new team into someone that was a league champion in 3 years. So Jameson, what do you feel about having read the article now? What do you think, giving even that more depth and detail about the kind of things that Seattle's establishing here with the Kraken?
Sure. I mean, I know I went into quite a lot of my first impression of the press release from last week, but so much of what they detailed in this particular article was even so much cooler because, I mean, they talked about, say, having people that you would never expect to see on the ice, or even if they can't get on the ice, they can play floor hockey with a ball, implementing it in school programs potentially. They were talking about there was a little kid in a wheelchair that was learning how to stick handle, just stuff like that. And I really think that they're going above and beyond not only what would be expected from a hockey organization, but as a community, uh, a sort of benefit to the community. Just to, I mean, especially when you're not associated with something that can be very intimidating, like hockey. I mean, there are so many individual skills just to fundamentally understand before you can even learn to shoot a puck. Say, I mean, the old kind of argument that a lot of the hockey guys I grew up with would make would be, well, it's the hardest sport to play because it's the only one where you have artificial feet and artificial hands. You have to play with a stick and you're on an eighth of an inch of steel on a slippery surface. So just to learn to skate is an endeavor in and of itself, but then you put stick in your hands and then you have to skate around people. And so there's a lot of applicable skills that you have to really learn at a reasonable pace, or expected to anyway. And I think the way that they're approaching it is really good because not only are they approaching it from a genuine scholastic standpoint, but also encouraging people just to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Come out and have a good time. It doesn't matter if you're the best player on the ice. Don't even look at it that way. Just try to make that small improvement every time you skate. And I mean, that's what's really rewarding on an individual level, is just to see progress and do it with your friends.
Yeah, I'm already sitting out here trying to look up some size 15 skates to get for myself. And just hearing all that, it makes me feel a lot more confident in just approaching the ice, and it's funny because it is a huge deal. You walk into an ice rink and it's everything, especially, the small ones around here that I've seen the Ducks and Huskies play in. Even if you are out there alone, it just feels like, even with those empty stands, everything, it feels like, is being watched on you anytime. It feels like so much an arena compared to, you go out on a football field on a day, and if you're not in a stadium, you kind of can just go run, do your thing. But man, you get on the ice, it's a different feel. It's just not like that average play field you get in sports. You get on the ice, you have to be equipped for movement and being able to balance yourself in a way it's so unique. And it's something I definitely look forward to getting into again. But regardless, besides that, we've already talked about this subject enough last week. I feel like we gave the article a lot of their leeway to go on there. And I believe that was Tim Booth, Associated Press, but I caught it on the Washington Post just to give attribution there. As a journalism major, that's important, I've heard. Nowadays, don't know how important, but still trying to keep it relevant. But next part of our deep dive is the Seattle Kraken program right now. There's not a lot of signings to talk about. We'll get to those, but something that came out recently that both caught our eye is the DEPS program, the deepest membership experience in hockey, which is being provided by the Kraken. Now, we've talked about this, that potentially the show will be investing in this. But as an individual, Jameson, if you were a Caps fan, and let's say your franchise is going to offer this opportunity for $90 for you to get in a program where you get perhaps exclusive and annual membership gift, priority access to ticket releases, early access to merch, including the jersey pre-orders we all already want, which is probably the biggest draw of the membership already. And then special access to select away games, arena shows, preferred access at Kraken Community Iceplex, where they train, and access to training camp and member-only events. How much is that worth it to you right now, given the current prices that people have probably already paid for season tickets if you're a Kraken fan?
I mean, I want to make the joke where they have to call it the depths, because by putting the $90 in, it doesn't really guarantee you anything other than you're going to have to spend more money at a discounted price. So you might as well just be tying $90 worth of bricks to your feet and sink into the depths. but I mean, not to talk too badly of it. I mean, if you're really invested in the program, I mean, there is a lot of media stuff too that comes with the program. So if you are a guy that likes to sit and just listen to exclusive interviews, or I know they said they were going to do a walkthrough of the arena with, I believe, Tanev and a couple other guys, which would be cool. Um, to me, the merchandise perks are just that, perks. Um, for $90 a season, it sounds like a bit much out the gate.
Before you determine that, I should read to you. Members of the Depths will receive priority access to ticket releases, member-only offers, and events, including access to training camp and practices, early accesses to merchandise and team store discounts, an annual member gift, preferred and discounted access at the community Iceplex. Like we said, access to exclusive content, games and contests, and more. Those are officially, if you go on their website, that's what you're getting promised for $90.
Sure. And again, what not saying that I distrust the vague nature of a few of those, but when they say discount prices on merchandise or whatever, that could be a 5% discount. So you might get $7 off of something, which is cool, whatever. Again, it really depends to me on how invested you are in getting physical merchandise or actually going out and spending more money on the team. It's kind of the same as paying a forward lump sum for ticket prices for season tickets, rather than just saying, well, I just want to see a game here and there.
Yeah.
It is kind of a forward thinking investment. So it's pretty much on an individual basis and relative to how you envision yourself moving forward with the team and the organization. So, I mean, for me, if I were living in Washington and the Capitals released a program like that, I wouldn't bat an eyelash. I would do it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And that's a great perspective to have, because here I was, even like before we recorded this podcast, I'm like, this is nonsense. I wouldn't do this. And then you mentioned like, oh yeah, as a podcast, actually this could get us some access. So why not just, yeah, that way we get our jerseys before we go on our Miami trip and could represent the podcast properly. So would love to do that as early as possible. And the fact that, the only thing that bothers me about it is, man, everybody's begging for these jerseys. Everybody wants them. Just to have it like this priority list, that feels like the biggest sell right now. And to me, that's like, oh man, it feels like you should already be able to pre-order these things. They should already get that gauged in terms of expectation. But again, supply and demand. If they don't make it that easy for everyone to pre-order that jersey and select their payment, that they also create, that demand for it. So keeps the prices nice and high.
I believe the first or second bullet point was that they're reserving like the first 3,000 game worn jerseys or something, like specifically game worn.
Which I'll have to check that out, because that would be really important.
I don't even understand how you could have 3,000 game worn jerseys.
No, I mean, unless it's practice.
That number has got to be. I mean, I know they do different sort of like fundraiser stuff, like say like for the Capitals, they'll wear a camo jersey in warmups and then sign them and do it at auctions for whatever veteran charities, or I mean, Hockey Fights Cancer is a big one too. So there's a lot of stuff like that. I would assume that goes into it as well. To what degree, I am not sure. It does bear saying that it is, at least of right now, supposed to be an 82 game season. We'll see how that works out with the future of COVID and everything. Yeah. But I think that's pretty cool too.
Yeah. Well, anyways, transitioning from that, I there's a lot to think about. It might not be for everyone. I know it's definitely going to be for Kraken One Open. Hopefully it gives me the opportunity to get some affordable tickets going and give you guys some firsthand access and experience to what it's going to be like at Climate Pledge Arena. But the last part of our deep dive, and we haven't had a lot to talk about in terms of signings, but one thing that I know is someone here in the region that I'm pretty excited about. We got an undrafted WHL Seattle Thunderbirds goalie that's going to be joining the team. I believe Thomas Milik, and he's going to be invited to training camp with the team, even though we've got 3-4 solid goalies. But would I go ahead and correct me, sir?
Milic. Yes, sir. That's what I'm here for.
Well, Tommy Milic, I'm going to go ahead and drink for you there as we do as part of the rules. And if you guys catch any errors at home, it would be fantastic if you let us know down in the comments or in the replies. Let us know how you're watching, what you're drinking, and especially what we screwed up on, because we'll drink for it in our penalty box next episode. So good catch, Jameson. You got that before anyone else did. But names are going to be in the NHL for me. Easily my biggest drinking point. If you're drinking at home, I want to remind you again, drink responsibly. So how do you feel about this sign? Not only this invite to training camp, but I believe there is another signing, right?
Yeah. We'll get to him in a second. I do want to break down Thomas Milic a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because one of Seattle's own playing with the Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
Last season he was the Rookie of the Year for the U.S. division, which is pretty huge. He went 5-4 with a I didn't write down his save percentage, but it was like 916 or something insane. Only eclipsed by his performance with the Canadian World Juniors team, where he went 2-0,
yeah,
0.975 on the international level, playing against some of the best young players in the world. That's incredible as an 18-year-old. Back to his stuff with the Thunderbirds. He only played 9 games, 5-4.
Yep.
And keep in mind, because the WHL has a lot of teams north of the border as well, they didn't have playoffs this year. So there wasn't a real
not a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I don't want to say it wasn't competitive, but it was just for the season, and
the opportunities were just different.
Yeah. One of the cool parts is that he did spend the summer playing with the Delta Hockey Academy, playing against guys like Brendan Gallagher from Montreal, Milan Lucic, who's in Calgary, was in Boston for a long time, and then Seattle's own Brendan Dillon, who you guys just picked up from Washington. So he's no stranger to face an NHL level competition. That being said, he did go undrafted this year, which is unfortunate, but another year playing AHL or WHL hockey, rather, excuse me.
Yeah.
Especially for someone that young, is almost always the best. If you're not ready right out of the gate, you're probably better off just developing and dominating at that level. That being said, I do want to promote the Thunderbirds here a little bit, because they're going to be a fun team to watch. I know we're focusing on the Kraken generally, but for the greater Seattle area, Thunderbirds, they finished 3rd in the U.S. division last year. They do have 4 players that were drafted this year. I want to say between Winnipeg, Dallas, and a couple other places, but 7 of their players will be joining NHL training camps.
Wow.
I can say for Thomas Milic, he's going for both the rookie and the professional level camp.
Yeah.
And it would not be the first time that an undrafted player got a professional contract. I wouldn't expect that for Thomas, but it's not completely outside the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, well, and especially, the goalies that we already have, it does feel like to even get significant time out there on the ice, significant injury or performance issues,
right,
would definitely have to lead to him getting out there. And I say that as someone that knows very little about hockey, but it's still exciting to see someone from, again, I'll always root for the Thunderbirds and Silvertips players that go on to whatever team, regardless of the Kraken. It's still exciting to develop that. And to have seen a couple of those guys around here then and again. So fantastic first period. Anything you want to add to the end of that, or you think that's good for our deep dive?
Well, we didn't.
We've got one more player, huh? Almost. I'll drink on that. We had one more signing. Yep. Gustav. Go ahead. Tell us what that means for the Kraken.
Sadly, I don't think too much. He's a big boy.
Yeah.
He signed 1 year, $750K, 6'3", 200 pounds. He's 26. He's played the last 2 years with the Laval Rocket. That's the Canadiens AHL affiliate. Potentially some with Cole Caulfield, which is a totally different conversation, but Cole is one of those young phenoms that came through the University of Wisconsin and then started playing the AHL and was huge for the Canadiens in Montreal. So kind of curious to see how much their time overlapped in Laval. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm just going to assume I'm not. Again, like last week, don't speak French. The interesting part that I wanted to kind of at least note, maybe not analyze, but compared to Connor Carrick, just because specifically they're only a $50,000 or $500,000 difference rather. Or no, 50. What am I talking about? 750, 800K. For a second, I was like, nah, whatever. This rum is good.
Fantastic, right?
Right. And so Connor Carrick's a little smaller, but stockier for his size. Again, with Gustav, 6'3", 200, whereas Connor's 5'10" or 5'11", something like that, and about 192, 193, so between 5 and 10 pounds. The difference is that with Gustav, he only has 59 games played in the NHL, whereas Connor Carrick has 241 and is only a year older. Yeah. So I would expect to see Gustav down in Charlotte quite a lot. Yeah. Which is why I say I don't expect it to be a huge thing for them. Again, it is a two-way contract, so he can go up and down with no repercussions. For those who don't know, if it's a one-way contract, he has to clear waivers to go down to Charlotte, which means he's basically free reign for the league to pick up should they take the drastic move to send him down. Yeah. But it doesn't apply to either of those guys in this particular situation. That's just kind of a added bit of information for people who don't necessarily know.
Gotcha. Well, that's the end of our first period, which is our deep dive on the Kraken themselves. And good first period, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, then.
Release the Kraken!
That's fantastic. And our second period is our around the NHL, and it seems like only way too short a time frame to have our next kind of sad memorial episode, especially so young. But there was a death in the NHL, a retired player, and unfortunately, it hit both of us pretty hard, as we were talking about before the episode. Jameson, you want to tell the people exactly what happened and a little more about him as a hockey player?
Oh, first of all, there were two that were pretty earth-shattering. Yeah. One more than the other, given the relative time spectrums. Oh boy, this is going to be a tough one. So Jimmy Hayes played here in Chicago, played in Boston, was drafted by Toronto.
Basically our age.
31 years old.
Yeah.
He was born late 1989.
Yep.
Died 3 months after his son was born. I mean, what do you really say? He played 334 games in the show, 109 points. Good kid. What some people might not know is that he comes from a long lineage of hockey players. His brother Kevin Hayes plays for Philadelphia. His cousins, Matt and Brady Kachuk, are both alternate captains. Matt up in Calgary, Brady up in Ottawa. Um, Matt had a fantastic season this year. I mean, Brady had to play in Ottawa, so we're gonna cut him a little bit of slack for that one. His uncle, Keith Kachuk, 1 out of 5 U.S. born players to score 500 goals, and the 6th in U.S. born player history to score 1,000 points. Which, holy crap, he's largely considered to be one of the best U.S. born players of all time. Easily top 10 historically. I mean, we got some good guys coming up now in like Patrick Kane and so on, but as far as players through the 90s and 2000s, Keith was a wrecking ball. What I didn't know until I did a little bit of a dive into this history, his uncle is Tom Fitzgerald, who played 17 seasons. He's the current GM and executive vice president of the New Jersey Devils. He won a cup with Pittsburgh. I didn't write down what year, but he was in the office for when Pittsburgh won one of their cups. So, I mean, just an absolutely outstanding pedigree. What do you say? 31 years old, man. That's
yeah, man. I when I heard that, especially because you're a little younger than me, lad, but I am 31 and looking at turning 32 this year, and I sit here and thinking, especially the thing that bothers me is, I'm without wife and kids. I think someone that lost their dad when I was 16, that just, I can't imagine having a newborn child and losing your father before you can ever establish that connection, because even the years I've lost with my father, I can't imagine what that would be like to have, and to have back, and to not have any of the 16 great years I had. That's really what breaks my heart. And I wish the best to their family, because man, regardless of what your sport is, or however you hear about this story, it's heartbreaking. And especially when that someone that young puts so much into the sport. Again, as obviously autopsies have not determined the cause of death. We're way too soon to really be able to do that, which is, we talked about a little before the podcast, which got you a little fired up, which I always love and enjoy, especially with our current lighting situation. Just adds to that, the Caps red color that comes on your face.
Yeah,
but
I'm rocking the red in the cheeks.
Let us know, what do you think about that? What about the accusations out there that potentially this is, accusations of something of drug use or something? Like what's your feeling of this?
That really just drives me nuts.
No.
As you said, it really riled me up before. I'm gonna try to avoid doing that now, but I've heard people talking about overdosing or just whatever.
Yeah.
And because there was a big prominent article, I forget exactly where it debuted. I'm going to try to find it
you do
really
that
fast, but see, it was on people.com. Yeah, it was on people.com. No, I lied. That's the funeral service. Wow, this actually all got really. Oh yeah, no, it was on people.com yesterday, where it said, his cause is yet to be determined after autopsy.
Yeah.
Dude, he died a week ago.
Yeah.
What the hell do you mean it's yet to be determined? Do you understand how autopsies work, man? Like,
well, I mean, beyond that, even then, it's the fact it led to some speculation that I saw, at least on social media.
And completely unwarranted and uneducated speculation is the worst part.
Yeah, agreed.
Not to cut you off, but
no, please. I agree with you wholeheartedly. That's where I was going anyways. Naturally, you have to also understand that there are so many things in health and healthcare that we don't fully understand as much as we pretend to. And there are a lot of people that you're seeing now in other sports that are quitting and retiring early because they're recognizing problems that probably would lead to long-term health issues. And who knows if this was one of those things or not, but to speculate in the other direction that there's, people even love to say that performance enhancements or those types of things, it could just as easily be some prescription medication that they have for an actual like human issue. There are all these things going on that really, really bother me when people jump to those accusations, especially when someone so young dies. It could be an enormous multitude of things that we don't fully understand yet, and everybody's body is different. So, best wishes to him and his family. But yeah, it's disappointing to see some of the speculation, and a lot of old school hockey folks out there I see on Twitter that kind of have that perception of like, yeah,
it was cocaine or whatever. I mean, honestly, it could be an undiagnosed genetic thing.
Exactly.
That's one thing that happened to a young prospect, I believe, in 2007, named Alexei Cherepanov. He was drafted in like the mid to late teens in the first round for the New York Rangers. He ended up playing in the KHL. And there's a video of Jaromir Jagr sitting on the bench next to him. I forget what team they were playing for. Was it Magnitogorsk? I don't remember. But some kid who, grew up in Russia, he just always really wanted to play hockey. His family said, well, we found that he has an undiagnosed heart condition, but if you tell the league that, they're not going to draft him. He's not going to be able to live his dream. He died on the bench during a game. So, not to use that very specific, gruesome example as a talking point, but it's not outside the realm of possibilities that this could have just been some fluke shit. Like, it really bothers me when people just go immediately to drug abuse when someone dies. It's just not fair, especially within the following hours of someone passing.
Well, and to be even more fair, I think the perspective of drug abuse, I think people don't really keep a wide enough scope, because as going back to the MLB in 2019 with Tyler Skaggs, an overdose potentially from fentanyl, if I'm correct. That's something where it's like you could believe you have something that is legitimate and you have fentanyl and overdose on something you don't think you have. So there's all kinds of things that could have been happening, and for people to go immediately to cocaine or any kind of performance enhancers really, really bugs me. And yeah, I shared in our pre-episode meeting, and like that's something that gets me fired up with someone that's leaving behind family and such an untimely death. And
I mean, especially as a kid, when he gets old enough to look up what happened, that's the last thing you want to see, even if it's true. Even in the horrible event that it's true, this is all a bunch of nobodies that never met the guy, probably never seen him lace up his skates, let alone put on a sweater. That just say, oh, he was 31. There had to have been some level of abuse. Like, get the fuck out of my face. Cheers.
Cheers, and pouring one out.
Pour one out, yeah. That being said, the moving forward, also a big loss to the hockey community, Rod Gilbert.
Yeah, I actually missed this one until you let me know about it. So go ahead and fill us all in.
Yeah. In fairness, he was 80, so it's not quite the same. He was nicknamed Mr. Ranger, though. He played 19 seasons with the Rangers. He was the first Ranger to have his number 7 retired. And let's see, a couple stats here. He put up 1,021 points in 1,065 games, wearing one crest.
That's oh, I should have been wearing a hat, my friend.
That's insane. I mean, not only to play that many years, but to be almost a point per game. He was on the I don't know if it was the GPG or GAG line. It was goals per game or like goal per game. I want to say it was goal a game line, the gag line. Um, put up 67 points in 75 playoff appearances.
Damn.
Played in the 1972 Summit Series, which is insane. That's one of the most famous series of all time. Inducted and to put it into perspective, why he retired was because he got into an argument based on his contract with I want to say it was the GM at the time. And following the season, he just said, well, I quit hockey. I don't want to play anywhere else from the Rangers, and you're not working with me. So
damn,
here it is. Again, inducted in 1982. He almost immediately became the president of the Rangers Alumni Association. He was kind of on away from the ice, but a more what he meant to New York, especially at that time, because I mean, I've made it no secret, maybe over the course of this podcast, but being a huge Billy Joel fan, when Joe Ford was in office and they were going to default on their federal loans, there was that famous headline just says Ford to New York drop dead. And so New York was going through a lot of really bad times over the course of this guy's career.
Yeah.
And so he got married in 1991, and the ceremony was conducted by Mayor David Dinkins at the time, which is pretty cool. The mayor of the city conducting your ceremony is a guy who's been retired for almost a decade.
Damn.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And what is almost even more cool, 1979, Andy Warhol did an athlete series. He was one of 10 athletes included in that series.
Wow. Damn.
Granted, one of the other guys was OJ, but we're not going to split hairs here.
Damn.
I mean, to be immortalized by Andy Warhol, if that doesn't put into perspective how important this guy was at the time to not only the city of New York, the organization of the Rangers, but also hockey in general.
Wow.
That's, I mean,
the Rangers is a hockey noob. Forgive me. They're one of the original 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Hockey noobs out there, commit that to your memory, because if you don't already know that, you feel like an asshole when you don't.
And interesting pointer about the Rangers, when they won in 1994, that was shortly after the fall of communism. Or communism as we know it.
Yeah.
And they had the first 3 Russian players' names on the Stanley Cup engraved.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
one
fair.
being Alexei Kovalev, who is the most talented lazy player in the history of the game. And I love him to death.
Fuck. Hell yeah, brother. Well,
so there's a bunch of random trivia for you.
Random trivia, and poured myself another vodka in honor of the end of
Rod Gilbert.
Exactly. That
and the end of communism.
The end of communism, and all losses, we'll drink to that, because around the NHL, that's what we do in our second period, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Release the Kraken!
Woo! Okay. So I'm going to try and gather my wits as we go into our third period, which, if you are a Kraken One Open fan and are following us on Twitter at Kraken One Open, or on Instagram at Kraken Digit One Open, or our new Facebook group, which we added last week, you know that this is where you have a chance to participate in the show. And I'm going to start our third period this week with a little bit of coaching. I'm going to go, a little bit old school here and say, you fans, you need to step it up. I see you out there watching. We're getting at least 25 viewers per video, which is fantastic. We're getting more listeners than that, I already know. And the problem is when we get your feedback, it's very, very limited. We're not getting enough YouTube comments. We're not getting enough engagement on Twitter. We're asking you what you want to see, and we know there's no hockey to talk about left. But there's so many moves and so many things you could talk about with what you want to see in our show and what you want to see us drinking specifically, and when we drink, to see us get all silly by the time we get to this third period and respond to your questions. So instead of responding to questions this week, I think we reached out, checked out the Kraken community because we didn't get a lot of responses. And from Dark Depths really stood out to the entire Kraken community this week and reached out to a couple people that are in the media locally and said, "Hi, I'm an English guy who has recently gotten into the NHL after my brother encouraged me. I'd love to start my journey as a fan with the hashtag Kraken and grow with them, but I don't know the best way to network with the community. Excited for the puck drop and meeting fans." And I went on our social media account and immediately took advantage of this and responded to Stuart and let him know, "Hey, man, if you are a new NHL fan, there's no better podcast to get down with than us. Even if you're down in the UK, me and Jameson are not in the same spot. We are separated from Seattle to Chicago, and all the way out there having that reach in a fan base to the UK is fantastic." So he also reached out in this tweet and said, "I'd like to say huge thanks to so many of you for making me feel welcome after I posted about my growing passion for the hashtag #SeaKraken. I can say now that I think it's going to be an exciting start supporting a team right after the first ever puck drop." And then he dropped a fantastic graphic, which we reached out to him. He said he loves graphics. He has said he is interested in doing graphics for the show. So next time we get to our penalty box, our first, second, third period, our face off, or our sudden death wrap up, Jameson, we may have new graphics. So, keep posted. We're going to work along with Stuart. He's one of our favorite new fans. And go ahead and add @from Dark Depths on Twitter. This guy is a new Kraken fan, and you want to get engaged with him. How do you feel about that, Jameson? What do you feel like with an old bloke from the UK trying to join up with our Kraken fandom?
Well, firstly, you didn't prep me that his name was Stuart. No, the reason that's funny is if you're not familiar, there's a series called Letterkenny, which is very, very northern based, if you will. And one of the running jokes is scared. So I can't hear that name without that voice.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I would love to work with him. That would be fantastic. I mean, hell, even if he wants to be a guest on the show, just come on and talk about, what he wants to, or what he expects to see from the season, or
he could have
what he would like to know.
He can have an entire third period to himself at this point between him
Absolutely.
and Kraken up north.
Yeah,
they
totally.
could just hold our third period down from here on out. But yeah, I would really love to. I'm excited to see what he has, and hopefully in the next couple episodes, everyone gets to see that. Maybe makes our show more engaging, and we are always looking for contributors for sure. And this, if you want to get involved in the community right now, that's a great way to do it. Is this podcast has already gotten a ton of more engagement than I expected without any games being played for us to talk about,
Which is pretty wild. And again, like as far as comments, mentions, DMs, whatever, just it could be the dumbest thing in the world. If you want us to talk about it, we have all the time in the world, man.
perfect. Perfect transition, because exactly our favorite fan @Kraken Up North, he responded last week and he said, "Kraken won open while I listen on a Friday night in BC. Cheers, fellas." And as you can see right now, he sent us a great picture of his, I believe, hors d'oeuvres he's having with his brew. I would love to know what kind of brew you're drinking, but yeah, Jameson, looking at this, if you had to, is this how you would indulge on watching a Friday night podcast airing of Kraken One Open?
I mean, firstly, I would say whatever kind of beer that is, they need to hire Stewart to get a better design.
Stuart, please let them know down in the comments how they can fix this design on this beer, because yeah, I can't even tell you right now what kind of a brew that is. I believe some kind of a European malt. Yeah. So again, I would love to know the details there, but I think Stuart can clear it up for him real quick.
But I also would like to see the final product of the sauce he's clearly making with that basil he cut with scissors.
Basil, huh? Yeah, that definitely looks like some kind of like I said,
So it's an Italian herb of some kind, I think.
some fantastic herb there that is going to hopefully enhance his experience of this episode and all our episodes moving forward, because whatever it is, whether you're drinking along with us with juice, water, or Michelob Ultra, we appreciate it. And we always know that new fans are going to have to drink along probably to be able to interpret and appreciate our podcast. So fantastic end of our third period, mate.
Release the Kraken!
Okay, so we go into our sudden death wrap up where we talk about not only what we enjoyed most about this episode, but what mistakes we caught, what we thought about. And Jameson, go ahead, start off. Yeah.
I just like to point it out that you took your koozie off. I put mine on.
Ooh, man.
There's a dichotomy here.
You have caught me, and unfortunately, I'll drink to that. I will drink to that. I have another beer right here in the koozie, ready to go, and we'll get that classic Kraken one open sound.
There you go.
Woo!
It's funny because
good call out, mate. You go ahead.
I saw that you had yours on. I wanted to shout out to the Three Floyds reference, so I didn't put mine on. So I cracked a new one, put that one on. Was sitting here just like, oh, okay, like cool. Here we're matching. And
happy now?
Oh wow, that was a full one, wasn't it?
Full beer, and I'll put it on the one I was drinking. Hey, you call me out at the right time, especially during a sudden death wrap up. What else am I gonna do? I'm not just gonna let the beer sit there. No.
I mean that was a 5-minute major, I think there.
Oh man.
But, well, I think what we kind of neglected to mention, following up on last week, is that we will have the show from Miami live coming up. Would like to plug that a little bit, remind people that it will be an interactive experience.
Yep.
We will be kind of promoting it and letting people know how they can get involved. But that will be October 24th. Yeah.
Sunday, October 24th. Expect it in the evening. We're going to be on Eastern time, depending on when we get in. And we've already had our flights already adjusted slightly. So we'll let you guys know as we go into it, but expect like 5 p.m. Eastern, which seems reasonable if you guys want to be drinking on a Sunday
afternoon. Yeah, I mean, keep in mind it's 3 hours difference once you get to Miami to West Coast.
That
maybe have a mojito with some lunch.
I'll already be showing up because I hate flying, especially, and I haven't flown during a pandemic. Last time I was able to fly was last time I got a haircut, which was the Rose Bowl for the University of Oregon in 2020. So, man, I am excited for it. Hesitant, hoping everybody out there is willing to go and get the vaccine, or at least keep themselves socially distanced and masked, because, man, if we don't do that, we're not going to be able to see all the Kraken games we want to in person. And all those thousands of dollars in tickets, it's going to suck to have those refunded with a fee charge on the back of that, because that's what you're ended up seeing with a lot of these events nowadays is you're not getting that full refund that you paid for necessarily. So go out there, get yourself vaccinated, or make sure you get a negative COVID test. And regardless, follow this podcast, because why not? Right now you are listening to the sweet sounds of Where's Jameson as we close out. And There's nothing better than that, except for if you subscribe and you tell your friends about this podcast, and we reach out to you and give you that sweet sample of premium Kraken 1 Open. And hey, guess what? It's coming for you. Episode 6 in the books. Have a great night. Episode 7 coming on the way. And again, follow, subscribe. We're coming out with a brand new episode after our first home ice opening on the 23rd with the 24th live show. So if you're not subscribed, you're not going to know about it. Jameson, thank you very much, and hope you have a great night. Any last words?
Na zdrowie, brother.
Ooh, nice. Hey, take it easy, man.
You too, brother.